Hello everyone, welcome to my messy studio. My name is Mark and I'm an artist and an art professor. And in this video we're going to be looking at these two pocket fountain pens made by HongDian, the M1 and the M2, from the perspective of an artist who uses fountain pens for drawing. And after I'm done with my review, I'll compare these two pens with their closest rival, the Kaweco Sport AL. Let's get started. These two pens, the M1 and the M2 models, have been making waves in the fountain pen circles for some time, and I know I'm a little bit late to the party with this review. But I actually bought them 6 months ago when they were newly released, and have used them extensively. So, unlike some reviews, no names mentioned, where the pen is scribbled with a few times before being reviewed, this review comes from a place of profound and extended experience. I think many of you out there are familiar with the HongDian brand through the very popular Black Forest model, an all-brass pen which now comes in a variety of different finishes. I gave the Black Forest a very good review for its solid build quality and excellent performance, and these two pens are consistent with the company's excellent track record. The M1 has a rounded, streamlined torpedo-shaped design and comes in a few light frosted metallic finishes. To my mind, the M2 has a more interesting look to it, coming in a few dark satin metallic finishes, a black nib, and a black clip, and this pretty finial design, which I think represents a cat. But surface differences aside, these pens are essentially the same, so much so that their parts are actually interchangeable. Both pens are aluminum, making them light but not insubstantial, with the M1 coming in at 21.7 grams and the M2 weighing in at 24.3 grams. When capped, these pens are almost the same length, about 10.5 millimeters. When uncapped, these pens are also about the same length, about 10 millimeters. When posted, however, the M2 becomes a little bit longer at 3.5 millimeters, with the M1 being 8 millimeters shorter at 12.7 millimeters. This is due to the M2's longer cap. And since this is a metal pen, the extra length makes the pen slightly more back heavy than the M1. On a large hand like mine, the back of both pens rests comfortably in the thenar space, that's a space between the thumb and the forefinger. But those with smaller hands might feel it. Here are these pens next to a Kaweco Sport for comparison. The cap threads are really smooth, and the caps come off with less than 2 turns. And the plastic liner cap ensures that the pens post tightly without scratching up the pen body. The smoothness of the posting is oddly satisfying to fidget with, and I find myself posting and unposting these pens for no reason during those unbearably long academic meetings. Another fidget-worthy feature is the spring-loaded clip, which makes it fun to click, like so. And of course, it's also very functional. The grip sections on both these pens are nicely tapered and long enough that the fingers don't make contact with the threads. And even if they do, the threads are low profile and polished enough to not be irritating. The overall slenderness of the pen body allows for a comfortable grip above the grip section. And you can even take a grip on the cap itself when you want to create those very long strokes. The satin finish on the M2 is a bit slicker than the M1, which has a slightly more granular surface. But neither pen is particularly slippery, something that was an issue on the shinier and more slippery HongDian Black Forest. Let's take a look at the insides. The barrel threads are very smooth, with a rubber O-ring to ensure a tight fit. The pen takes proprietary HongDian cartridges, which have a wider opening than the standard international cartridge. This is a slight drawback, though HongDian cartridges are readily available on Amazon and eBay. But fortunately, this pen also comes with this very nice short converter, which not only holds a nice amount of ink, but also comes apart for easy cleaning. This lovely attention to detail speaks highly of this company's dedication to putting out a quality product. The housing section unscrews, and though it's a pretty tight fit, you can pull the nib and feed from the housing, which makes these pens easy to clean thoroughly. Now, pulling the nib out usually requires a rubber band, some pliers, and perhaps a grip on the other side. Oh, okay, it pulled right out. The nib is proprietary, with little notches on the back that lock into the feed, like so. However, this is also a standard number 5 size, which means that it can easily be swapped with any number of number 5 standard nibs. Best of all, the housing unit itself is the same one used on the Black Forest. This is exciting news because I happen to have a Fude nib in one of my Black Forests, which I can now use in one of these two pens. If you follow my channel, you know how much I love putting Ultra Flex nibs from Fountain Pen Revolution, especially the 5.5 size, into any pen body that'll fit it. Now, for some reason, that nib will not fit into the housing units of these pens. But I have a solution. While the housing unit in the Black Forest is the same, the feed actually has a slightly different design which can accommodate the 5.5 Ultra Flex. So, if you want to use the number 5.5 Ultra Flex in your M1 or M2, all you need to do is swap the housing units from a Black Forest into one of these two pens. Let's put in the converter. Let's prime the feed a little bit to make sure the flow is okay. And let's give this a shot. We're dealing with a plastic feed head here, so the performance isn't perfect, but there's a number of different ways you can hack the feed to increase the ink flow and make it work better, the tutorials to which I will leave in the description section below this video. And if you're not someone who enjoys swapping nibs, the original nibs on these are actually pretty great. Let's run them through my series of standardized tests to see how they fare. Since these pens are essentially the same, we'll do the tests concurrently. Both are filled with one of my favorite drawing inks, Noodler's Lexington Gray, which, because of its transparency, will give us a better idea of how the ink flows through the pen. And as always, the tests are conducted on Strathmore Bristol paper. In the consistency tests, both pens fared perfectly, putting down lines without skipping in every direction and at every speed. Though both nibs are supposed to be extra fine, the M1 line was a touch thinner than the M2. Why this is the case I can't say, but sometimes lamination will change the way a nib performs, though from my understanding it usually results in a drier writing nib. At any rate, it can also have to do with the tightness of the tines, which can vary a lot from pen to pen in the very same line. Chalk it up to minor discrepancies in the manufacturing process, which can occur even in very high-end pens. In the line variation test, both nibs showed similar amounts of bounciness, with the M2 actually performing a little bit better. Again, why there's a difference is anyone's guess. Perhaps it's because I've been using the M2 regularly, which can sometimes make the nib bouncier over time. In any case, the difference is quite slight, with the M1 receiving a 2.5 on my flexibility scale, and the M2 a little more at a 2.75, or even a 3, which pushes it into the soft nib category. I forgot to mention a curious thing. The M1 doesn't work well in reverse writing, while the M2 actually does. Again, I can't account for the difference in nib performance other than the fact that the M2 has slightly better flow. In the feedback test, both pens performed much the same, with the M2 being just a touch smoother. Again, probably because it writes wetter. Both pens have the perfect amount of feedback, however, at least to my taste, gliding effortlessly across the paper with that slight bit of resistance helping you know whether you're maintaining contact with the paper. And in the wetness tests, as already stated, the M2 is the wetter pen. I suspect that rather than the nib lamination being the factor, it's just a question of tine tightness, and I could easily make the nib on the M1 write wetter by pulling the nib shoulders back a little. By the way, look for a video on fountain pen hacks and adjustments from me coming soon. Now let's run the ultimate test by drawing with these pens a little and see how they perform in real life. Again, since these pens are so similar, I'm going to take the M2 out for a spin and draw my conclusions about both pens with it. I'm working in my favorite multimedia sketchbook made by Talens, their art creation series. And as I draw, I'm also going to talk about how these two pens compare to their nearest rival, the Kaweco Sport AL. Since I'm about to do a workshop on how to draw different textures and details, let's do a drawing of something with a lot of different kinds of texture. Oh wait, let me quickly tell you about this workshop first. This follow-up to my Fundamentals of Crosshatching workshop adds an extra layer of complexity by dealing with objects with complex surfaces and textures. Texture is an especially challenging thing to do in pen and ink because this is a medium where things have to be suggested rather than fully defined. What I mean by this is that some mediums allow you to simply record what you see, while in pen and ink you can only approach the actual appearance of things through carefully placed strokes that evoke a sense of texture in the viewer's imagination. This workshop will give you skills you need to create convincing textures and other surfaces in pen and ink, and will feature charts, helpful diagrams, old master examples, of course, and at the end, a full-length still life drawing demonstration, as well as the option to have me give you feedback on your work. The available dates are listed in the description section, with more dates becoming available if I see that there's extra demand. Please visit my website to sign up. And now, back to your regularly scheduled programming. While I like the M1 very much, the M2 is my favorite. Not only because I think it's the handsomer design, but also because the nib writes wetter and the pen is heavier, making it feel more substantial, something that's an important factor in a small pocket pen. Overall, I think HongDian hit a home run here, even more so than with the Black Forest, which is a nice pen with several significant flaws. With these two pens, I really don't have a negative thing to say, other than I wish they used standard international cartridges. In short, this is the perfect pocket pen for the artist on the go. The pen body is super sturdy, well balanced, with a comfortable grip section and a nice weight to it. The nib and housing can be disassembled for easy cleaning, and the nib performs beautifully, one of the best performing steel nibs I've used. It's smooth, with just enough feedback, and best of all, it's soft enough to produce some very nice line variation. And since this pen takes a standard number 5 nib, you can swap it with any number of other nib options. That makes this pen ideal for artists that are looking for a small, portable, versatile pen to throw in their pocket or a compact sketching kit. And you can buy it for well under $20. Since purchasing these pens, the M2 has gone with me everywhere, becoming an essential part of my note-taking and drawing kit, this small notebook holder made by Lockbee. And how do these pens compare to their nearest rival, the Kaweco Sport AL? I would say favorably in almost every respect. For one, they're more comfortable pens, with longer grip sections, with threads farther back so they don't catch against your fingers. Unlike the Sport, they use a standard number 5 size nib that can be swapped out with many other options. The converter on the Sport, which you have to buy separately by the way, is a joke, while this one is very nice. And though the plastic Sport is comparable in price, the aluminum version, the Kaweco Sport AL, is almost 3 times as expensive. As I see it, the only advantage that the Sport has is that it comes in every possible color and material, whereas this pen comes in a far more limited range of colors. I hope you found this review of the HongDian M1 and M2 useful, and if you did, please subscribe and look for more pen reviews and drawing instruction on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you back in my messy studio very soon. Bye bye.